It started with one drum, then a couple more, followed by a few others. And it wasn't long before the whole school was getting in on the act. At the Newcastle under Lyme Community High School in Staffordshire, drumming is a way of school life. And the man behind the beat, head of music Steve Dawson, doesn't want to stop at his school.
I mean, to my dream is, I think that every school in the country should really have these African drums in, or certainly this element of African percussion or Brazilian percussion, because it grabs the kids and it's got such energy and drive. And I think any school would be the better for it, because the drums have this, you don't need the music stand, you don't need to be able to read music. It's open to all children.
The school has discovered the benefits of drumming go far beyond the music room.
I mean, when you watch the pupils play the drums, you can see there's an immediate satisfaction there. Why that is, who knows? It's, I think there's something within us that loves a beat, a rhythm. There's something primeval about it that's within us all. And I think, that's one of the reasons why children love pop music so much. It's got that beat and that drive in it, and similar to the drumming.
I think it's very important too, because they're not sitting behind a desk there and learning out of books and that sort of stuff, that they get this extra dimension to their learning, and that comes through. When you go in there, you can see, here we have active learning, visual learning, all sorts of aspects of learning. And so a young person who perhaps finds it difficult to access the curriculum in ordinary ways, perhaps their numeracy skills aren't very good or the literacy skills aren't very good, when they go into Steve's area, none of those things matter. And that's the brilliant thing about it, really.
Steve arrived at the high school as an Education Authority troubleshooter, with a remit to turn round an ailing music department.
And I always remember the first time I came here, the head teacher wouldn't show me down to the rooms. And I found out the nickname of the room was the Black Hole of Calcutta. And to my horror, things like windows were nailed shut, so kids couldn't get out on the roof. That's how bad things had got. And the room, which is now my office, it looked as if it had been burgled when I first came here. There were books on the floor. I think they were mixed with tomatoes and sandwiches and fish paste and all sorts of horrible things we found in there. None of this lovely equipment that you see in there at the moment.
Steve revived the department and then accepted an offer to become its new head. The changes he introduced included bringing in outside performers such as African storyteller and drummer Winston Lewis, who had an inspirational effect on both pupils and teacher.
Winston basically is a drummer, a dancer, a storyteller. And I always say to the head teacher, we do a lot of insets on styles of teaching. The best inset you can have is watching Winston in operation. It is absolutely fantastic.
Winston's influence can be seen in a lot of music lessons, which are based on traditional tales.
Alligator walks down the street. Do it with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alligator walks down the street. You don't sing it. I sing it, you're going to respond to me. Lay, 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 lay. All the time feeling the pulse. Here we go again. Alligator walks down the street. Lay, 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 lay. It's traditionally African based in that it's a call and response song. The pupils love it because they feel the sense of rhythm in it. It's got everything really. It's got some singing in it. It's got a bounce to it. It's got actions to it. And it invariably goes down super.
But Steve wanted to do more than tell African stories. He wanted to create an African band and bring a starkly contrasting culture to an area that may be mixed socially, but predominantly white racially.
I always remember a Polish pianist, great pianist Arthur Rubinstein, in his biography saying that constant development keeps an artist young and keeps ideas fresh. And that's really the ethos of the department and for myself. So I'm constantly looking for new ways to go, new directions to find it. I'd go very stale if I was teaching the same thing year after year, term after term.
One thing not constantly developing was the departmental budget. If he wanted to buy drums for a band, he'd have to find the money from elsewhere. Stoke-on-Trent Community Arts Group, Planet Sound, showed him how.
I have quite a lot of funding skills because it's something I've done for Planet Sound, but you know, bit by bit Steve's learning, other artists involved are learning, and hopefully it's something we can all move on together. You know, paperwork isn't the bit any of us artists enjoy really, but it's truly necessary to keep a project like this going.
So where'd you get the money from?
All sorts of different areas. The Arts Council, we have our local regional Arts Council, West Midlands Arts, and we get funding from them. From Robbie Williams Fund as well, give it some. Like I said, Make Some Noise is our youth music action zone, and they've provided funding for this project. The local network fund as well is another funder who's kindly provided money for this project. And really funding's an ongoing thing. You keep looking for pockets of funding, keep applying for it.
With Planet Sound as partners, the money, drums and enthusiasm came together to create a band called Medulla.
So this is Medulla, who are a group that do everything. Medulla, the name comes from, I think it was a girl a couple of years ago who's now left us, Kirsty Wright, who made the name up, and it's the combination of 3 rhythms. Macro, doo-doo and lamba. So she took the first 2 letters of each one, and we consequently called Medulla. Medulla. And our motto, by the way, is joined by a drum. And we like to think that this simple piece of hardwood with a goat skin is, well, A, it's joined us together. It's joined us to lots of different artists, like Planet Sound, who are the experts in here. Just hum that for me. Marley's. Just let me sing the first bit, and then sing it back. Marley's way, Marley's way. Booyah.
Importantly, it's not a school band, but a community band, making it eligible for a wider variety of grants.
Sometimes it's difficult to get awards and grants for schools. And so, because we did so much in the community, we decided that we would form our own constitution and our own committee and call this Medulla. And in such a way, we were eligible for a lot more grants than we could ordinarily be as a school-based thing.
Medulla performs for local charities and carnivals and receives invitations to larger venues, such as the Regent Theatre in Stoke, Symphony Hall in Birmingham, and more recently to a youth conference at Alton Towers. Even the most challenging of pupils have been transformed by getting involved with Medulla.
I'd had a young man in Year 9 who had been going through real difficulty. He was a very challenging young man. His behaviour was very difficult. He was on the special needs register as well, so he had very limited skills. And actually he'd had a couple of exclusions for quite violent and difficult behaviour. And staff were really struggling with him. I was doing a tour with parents around the school. I always go to Steve's room, and I went in there, and this particular class with this particular boy was in, and I have never seen anything like it. This lad was stood, he got one of the big drums out, and he was stood in the middle, and the look of concentration on his face was magical. Steve was doing things, and he was actually leading, this boy was actually leading the drumming, and he was concentrating 110%, listening absolutely to every little, beat that he got to do, and the others were all following him, and he got the biggest smile in his face I've ever seen. And he was just a completely different kid.
I get rid of a lot of stress. It just loosens yourself up, and it's like everyone else, they just enjoy it and it relaxes you after a hard day working.
What do you feel like when you're banging that drum?
It's like I don't want to stop. It's really good. You take chance after a while, but you get used to it.
Medulla continues to develop with help from artists brought in by Planet Sound. Samba is now part of the growing repertoire.
Medulla is really, it's expanded. Originally it was just a traditional African drumming group, but now I think of it as a very fluid, flexible thing that's become an umbrella for a lot of children. And I like to think that we're all singers, we're all dancers, we're all players, we're all drummers. But more than that,
I think the Majula now has gone out to the confines of the school, and it's taken under its wing other schools and other primary schools, other organisations. So they become joined by a drum.
It's very much a collaboration between the school, between Steve as a teacher and as an individual. He puts a huge amount of effort into the project, and with other artists as well who are involved. Yeah.
These are artists from outside?
Yeah, artists from all around the area, but also national artists and international artists, you know, from people like Bosco de Oliveira, who is a samba legend in this country and has worked with this project.
I'd like to say it had been very difficult, but such is the nature of the drumming that in a lot of ways it's quite easy because the enthusiasm is there and the energy is there.
Steve's next ambition involves developing a new sound by blending European and African instruments, including a fork and bottle.
Although it's a very simple instrument to play, it's very important to the whole group because you hear it above everything else, and it's very important that you keep the time, right? Never play it thinking, oh, I'm just hitting a bottle. Ba 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 ba.
Is it a proper instrument?
Oh yeah, yeah, a fork and bottle. We've got another one, a knife and bottle. We've got a knife and bigger bottle, but that's another story. Constant development keeps you young, keeps ideas fresh. So we looked for another offshoot from Majula, and we decided that we wanted to add a melodic content on traditional instruments and African instruments. But we're trying to do something unique that other schools haven't done. And I think we are unique in that respect because the pieces that we play are arranged by myself. And you can't go down to your local music shop and buy these things.
Steve dipped into coffers available for urban regeneration to turn his music room into a recording studio. Majula can now burn their performances and workshops onto CD, and Staffordshire's aspiring rock stars can have somewhere to practice.
True to the grant, we have local groups in recording, making demo CDs, rock groups, but also we go out on location. So when we do workshops as an AST, African drumming workshops, we invariably record what's happened. And if the school wished to have a CD of what's gone on with a nicely produced label and box and everything, then that's what we do.
1, 2, 3, 4. Man United for the cup. No, no, no. Aston Villa going up. No, no. Louder.
Steve became an advanced skills teacher rather than look for promotion behind a desk, and now spends one day a week running workshops at other schools.
Man United for the cup. No, no, no. Aston Villa going up. No, no. Louder. Keep going. Keep going.
At Westlands Primary in Newcastle-under-Lyme, these Year 6 pupils become captivated within minutes and drummers within the hour. Many of these children will soon join Steve at the high school and add their talents to Majula. The show will keep going on, and the funding, no doubt, will keep coming in.